And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me, returning after his week-long excursion going cross country, essentially. back into the temple, back at it. The man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that if you're going to move, don't. Or if you do, make sure that you have a very comfortable way of moving. Because going cross-country 2,500 miles in a pickup truck filled with all my stuff, well, it is what it is.
Legroom problems?
Not legroom problems, more just Tetrising everything in was an adventure that got me a double sunburn on one arm.
Oof.
Yeah. You wouldn't know anything about that though, Monk. You're not white enough.
I've gotten sunburns. Twice. over the course of 30 years, but twice.
It sunburned my arm, and it sunburned the top of my head.
Last time I got sunburned on my back, and that was when I was spending a week with the extended family in Maui.
Oof. I'd rather spend a week in Alaska.
Yeah, there are some roads that if you try driving on them, you are asking for trouble. Especially if you are susceptible to vertigo. You know, those one-lane roads where it's one lane on one end, you've got a barrier and then a fucking cliff straight down. The thing is, with some of those roads, if you wreck the rental car, you gotta pay for it, because in the contract it says you will not drive in these areas. It's kind of like how if you get a rental truck and you fuck it up on the can opener, you gotta pay for that.
Yep.
And I know some might say, isn't that kind of cruel because you couldn't plan for that? With the can opener, there is a big fucking sign that says overheight must turn if your truck's too tall. If you're seeing that, and it is bright enough that you can even see it at night. If you see that and you still wreck your truck trying to go under that bridge, no one has any sympathy for you.
Reminder that bridge is only 12.5 feet over ground. So the 11 and 8 plus 8.
Mm-hmm. And there aren't as many crashes on that thing as there used to be, but they still happen. And the rental company has thrown up their hands saying, if you end up crashing on this fucking bridge, we're not paying for it. And that's a pretty penny, because you got to replace the whole bed. That's like 10 grand.
Nope. I still think the most impressive one was somewhat recently. I think a couple months ago, one of the trucks hit the thing so hard it caused the railroad tracks on top of the bridge to bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Also, hello, Nacho Warrior. How are you doing?
Yep.
But all that aside, Monk, and my mention of rails, why not we go to the rails and talk about the next step in the Flux Destiny RPG.
Oh yeah. So
in Flux Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna get them cross-wired on more than one occasions, and for anyone who's mad that we called one thing the other thing, I want you to know that if you're mad at us, you got to leave a comment about how mad you are, but you have to leave it in Spanish.
Not only that, it has to be an essay at least 500 words long.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't give us a 500-word essay with proper citations about why you're mad, we're just going to ignore your comment.
Yeah.
Even Chris gets it.
And more specifically, it has to be Spain Spanish, not Latino Spanish.
Ooh, that's a curveball. As it is, today we are delving into most of character creation. And the reason I say most is we decided that the powers themselves, looking at all that fun stuff, deserved its own episode.
Yes.
So, as it is, just let me read off everything we're going to be going through here. We're going to go from the Karma Specialty section all the way up to the end of Traits and Flaws, and then from the Skill Tree and Level Up section all the way through to the backgrounds. So, basically all of character creation besides powers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because we felt that powers had so much meat on its bones, it needed its own episode.
I mean, with powers, we're dealing with half a dozen's variants on Karmistry before you get into specializations.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Now, some might say, isn't a bunch of powers the reason why you guys don't talk about superhero RPGs all that much? Technically, yes, it is. But that's because in those cases, that's just a big ol' listing of powers. For as many powers as we're dealing with in here, in most Supers RPGs, especially the bigger hitters, it's even worse there.
Yep. This is a section with enough meat on the bones with some interesting stuff mentioned in it that it deserves its own episode.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of in many Supers games, a power is just going to have some statistics to it, and that's really it.
Yeah, that's... Now, I'm not saying I will never cover a Supers RPG in this series. It's just that most of the ones that are in that genre aren't going to meet our criteria. Like,
Yep.
I will mention this briefly, but a while back we had considered covering, I believe it was Sentinels of the Multiverse. But when there was a whole section that'd just be us reading off Super's powers, you had talked me out of it. And I had realized, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, I had talked you out of it because I said this would be like the same thing as reading off the world's most litigious RPGs spells chapter.
Yeah, and
you get a bunch of statistics and some very what's the word I'm looking for? Flaccid descriptions.
Mm-hmm. But we open up with Karma Specialty, and the first part about it is making it real. Now, the first paragraph of that we can kind of skip because the make it real concept we kind of talked about last time. But the second paragraph is what I do want to focus on. Your Karma Specialty is the backbone of all your decisions in the game and shapes how your character will behave. Choosing a specialty isn't about picking powers. It determines your advantages, influences your personality, and even dictates how effectively you can use those crucial Karma Med Plus kits. Choose your specialty wisely, as each one gives your character a unique flair. And we have a tips and tricks sidebar. As you build your character, make sure you check out each section of this core rulebook for more info about your character's specialty, study, or affiliation. These elements will help you uncover additional advantages and traits. So then, advantages. Each Karma specialty comes with its own set of perks. These advantages are unique to your character's path and can help in situations that other specialties can't handle. Remember, these bonuses are permanent unless stated otherwise. The main two are Karma Med Plus kits and Karma Pool. Now, Karma Pool we already kind of covered when talking about the relationship between Karma Pool and Payback.
Yep.
But Med Plus kits, which is described as common in Fortuna, but their effectiveness varies depending on the user. Each specialty has a different proficiency with these kits. This might be a bit of left field, but I'm kind of reminded of how the certain potions in Hexen 1 and 2 had different effects depending on the class that you pick.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's one of these standout things I will acknowledge with the original Hexen, because it's not a bad game, but I hate it.
I know the reason why. All the backtracking and all the guide dang it / hand-breaking moments.
That and every 15 seconds one of those fucking Edens shows up.
Yep.
Um, and as far as Hexen 2 goes, I like most of it, but there's a couple areas that I do not care for, especially that puzzle in the Egypt section. You know the one.
Fuck that puzzle.
That puzzle will live rent-free in my head for the rest of my life, much like, anytime I've had to fight Geese Howard in any SNK game.
We don't talk about Geese, Monk. We let other people experience him. Then they know.
And yeah, I won't lie. There's been a few times where somebody had said, "Hey, I got the Art of Fighting collection at my LGS for cheap. How good is this?" And my shoulder devil says, "Say nothing."
And you do indeed say nothing.
Mm-hmm. I let them experience it for themselves. And the Art of Fighting games are not bad games, but imagine SNK boss syndrome on every level. That is Art of Fighting.
And it ends with the most dickish of all SNK boss syndrome bosses, Geese.
Yeah. Moving right along. So the first Karma specialty, and probably the most famous one, is the Escape Artist, and I'll let you take that one.
Alrighty then. Escape artists are the rock stars of the Karmistry world, known for their ability to manipulate the universe's forces to create stunning, immediate effects. Originating in 1727 AC with the founding of Fortuna, escapist Karmistry developed as a counter to the strict regulations of the Mu Empire. Today, escape artists are beloved superstars featured in TV shows and movies. Despite some traditionalist critiques, their flamboyant style and powerful abilities make them icons of modern Karmistry. Their main use of karma focuses on individual desire and manipulation of universal forces, yielding spectacular effects at the risk of significant payback. Escape artists are fashion icons, sporting extravagant outfits and a larger-than-life personas. From big hair to flashy clothes, their style is as impressive as their skills. Escape artists can replenish 10 karma points when completely depleted in battle, and with the Karma Plus Medkit ability, they get 1 Med Plus kit healing 25% of their HP, which means they need 4 Med Plus kits to fully recover. Their starting karma pool is 25 karma points. No reason I talked like that. No reason whatsoever.
Yeah. And
hoping
I'm not acknowledging that.
That's okay. We acknowledge nothing. Nothing happened, Bunk.
But with this, I would like to point out that the Med Plus kit mechanic here is, for all intents and purposes, healing surges. And granted with different degrees of effect, but it is amusing that healing surges that were introduced in 4th edition, and even though everybody tells me hit dice is the equivalent of healing surges, anyone who really says that hasn't played 4th. Or they played and completely missed the point. Or especially and I will also point out that I don't see any MMOs with an equivalent mechanic. But then we have special agents. Special agents are the guardians of karmic law in Fortuna, operating within the government or secret agencies. They monitor and regulate Karmistry use nationwide, investigate crimes, and apprehend rogue users. Their high-tech gear and secretive methods make them formidable opponents. Main use of karma: special agents utilize karma-infused technology, from weapons and shields to disruptive tech that can interfere with the flow of karma. Unique design: blending into the shadows, special agents wear protective armor and disguises, embodying the Super Spy aesthetic with a focus on utility and stealth. Advantage: receive 10% of their current merit balance as government-approved bonus, and an extra Med Plus kit after each checkpoint. Their Karma Med Plus kit ability: 1 Med Plus kit heals 100% of HP, Their starting karma pool, 20 KP. So
what we can see here with the special agents is that they're anti-mages, Monk.
yeah. In our system, they would... I know it would be tempting to say that in our system they would be covert ops. They can be, but in reality they're more of rune knights.
No, Monk. There's a it's covert ops, rune knight, and Magitech knight.
Yeah, I could see it.
Because of those shields and such.
Although I know it'd be tempting to say that they'd be akin to James Bond, but unlike James Bond, they actually returned the stuff. Unlike Bond, who gets chewed out by Q because everything Q gives Bond doesn't come back.
Yeah. Bond probably costs MI6 way too much money.
Mm-hmm.
In just spy gadgets alone.
Yeah.
But with that, we are moving to the third specialty, that being the Ink Fighters. Ink Fighters are martial artists who wield karma-infused tattoos called sigils to gain extraordinary combat abilities. From simple weapons to fantastical creatures, these tattoos come to life, giving Ink Fighters a dynamic and awe-inspiring edge in battle. Their main use of karma is the power of sigils. These depend on the complexity, size, and color of a sigil. Sigils must be recharged with karma as they fade with use, which means ink syringes are a must to have in any of their inventories for much-needed recharges. Part of their unique design, they wear minimal clothing to showcase their sigils, with attire often symbolizing their fighting style and rank. We can see that in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Their advantage, they can trade movement for an extra action in combat. That's pretty cool. I like that. Their proficiency with Karma Med Plus kits, one Med Plus kit heals 50% of their HP, and they need 2 for full recovery. And their starting Karma pool is 20 Karma points.
So I know it'd be tempting to say Ink Fighters would be leaning more towards, well, me. But I will go a little bit further. If you want the poster child for an Ink Fighter, it would be the Ise-Zumi monks in Legend of the Five Rings. They are the literal example of Ink Fighters.
I could see it.
Although that whole trading movement for an extra action, that is going to be very useful if you're already in melee, because why the hell would you get out of it? You're right where
if you're already in melee or in range of one of your sigil uses.
Mm-hmm. But remember one of the rules of combat: if the enemy is in range, so are you.
Yep.
But then we have the Clockbot. Clockbots are advanced robots powered by Karmastry, introduced in 1876. These machines use karma instead of electricity, making them efficient and adaptable. Clockbots play crucial roles across various fields, from defense to medical assistance. The main use of karma, Clockbots harness karma to interact with destiny and perform tasks, making them essential allies in many scenarios. Unique design. Known for their rabbit-like features, Clockbots' antennae enhance their Karmastry capabilities, combining whimsical design with functionality. Their advantage: they can absorb 50% of payback and karma weapon attacks without taking damage, halving all potential damage. And their Med Plus kit ability: one Med Plus kit heals 25% of HP, they need 4 to fully recover. And the starting karma pool is 20 KP. Well, Clockbots are clearly the tanks.
I've been kind of dipping my toes into the actual Flux Fantasy comic, Flux Destiny. I can see how the characters as portrayed in the comic become these particular archetypes, these 4 specialties. For anyone else who doesn't know, you can go over to the Patreon of a Flux Destiny creator and actually see the pages and read the comic. I highly suggest you do. It's actually a really good comic.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see how the designs in comic translate to the game. I especially like Clockbot because, well, the only Clockbot in the comic that I've seen thus far, and I'm not going to name it or tell any spoilers, has been a very interesting character, to say the least, and he really is a character.
Yeah. And
but there's
it wouldn't. You ever wonder if certain clockbots really hate hearing the words, "Danger, Will Robinson"?
I could see one Clockbot or another being slightly exasperated at that. But that's only assuming that Lost in Space even exists in this particular world.
Mm-hmm. But moving right along. Says that with these specialties, you're not just picking a role, you're defining how you'll interact with the world of Fortuna, how you'll overcome its challenges, and how you'll carve your name in the annals of Flux fantasy. Choose wisely and get ready to make it real. But
indeed,
after that, we have Karma Studies, the heart of character creation. Welcome to the heart of character creation in Flux Fantasy, choosing your Karma specialty. Study. This represents your character's path to mastering the art of Karma manipulation. When you pick an escape artist, ink fighter, special agent, or clockbot as your specialty, you dive into a specific study that defines your powers and abilities. Each study has unique advantages and helps shape your character's journey. Once you pick a study, stick to it unless the GM allows otherwise. So there's quite a few studies. The key thing is that each of them has some sort of angle when it comes to the powers that they're better at, as well as a talent modifier. For the escape artist, there is creative karmistry, which has things like object creation, animation, and transformation. For clockwork karmistry, they have things like mechanics, energy control, and forces control. I should note, creative gets a +1 to technique. Clockwork gets a +1 to agility. Bio gets a +1 to function, and its expertise are things like biosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and pyrosphere. Machine
life, earth, water, air, and fire.
Yep. Machine karmistry as things like mechanization, cybernetics, energy, and computer technology, and gets a +1 to stamina. Quantum karmistry is the bleeding edge, and has things like mind control, telekinesis, and reality warping, as well as a +1 to willpower. And I'll let you go into ink fighting.
Yep. So ink fighters are not going to have these named karmistries that seem like they're formal studies, because I'm guessing not a lot of ink fighters are formally trained, unlike escape artists. So ink fighters start with their melee form, which of course is, they usually have sigils of weapons and such as swords, bats, spears, warhammers, and knives, and get a +1 to their aura talent. They're also specialized in hand-to-hand combat like all ink fighters. Then we have the projectile ink fighters, who have sigils that do things like launch cannons, guns, rockets, throwing knives, lasers, and grenades. And because they usually have stuff mounted on their arms and shoulders for mobility and precision, they get a +1 to technique. Animal is your typical animal summoner, it looks like. Summoning creatures or transforming parts of their bodies into animal forms. However, it says here that the sigils can be volatile, sometimes turning on their owners, earning them a legendary status along the elite. They get a +1 to the agility talent. They also have the body talent study, which is enhancement, self-enhancement, such as giving themselves strength, skills, even extending their teeth or giving themselves tougher skin. And that gives +1 to their function talent. Finally, we have elemental ink fighters, which, well, are you the avatar? Not quite, but you could be. Lightning bolts, fire blasts, torrents of water. And of course, they get a +1 to the willpower talent.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that the special agent shown on the special agent studies first page kind of reminds me a little bit of Android 18.
It's the hair.
It is absolutely the hair.
Although I will,
but she's also a femme fatale monk, so.
I mean, we're doing the super spy thing, so, and I will appreciate the dual wielding of. It's hard to tell because it's a sketch, but I think those are supposed to be Uzis.
Maybe they're supposed to be Uzis, but in this configuration, they're bullpupped SMGs.
Which is, on one hand, I like SMGs. On the other hand, I don't like bullpups.
I will curse the monk any way I can.
Oh, you've had to make up for a week of withdrawals, so.
And you've had too much peace, monk. It's time for chaos to reinvite itself to your life.
But anyway, the studies for the special agent are Scout, which is described as the stealthy vanguard. So surveillance, reconnaissance, the people who are best unseen, your intelligence operatives. They get a +1 to agility. Disruptors are the heavy hitters, wielding karma-powered weapons. These are agents built for combat. Disruptors are often found on the front lines, and they get a +1 to willpower. Then Bodyguard, who are described as the tanks, using karma-powered body enhancements. They are usually equipped with exoskeletons or bracers that enhance their physical strength and durability. Oh, they've got exosuits. Nice. And they get a +1 to stamina. Then Operative, which is described as being skilled in planning and coordination, using their knowledge of karma-powered surveillance to outsmart enemies. They get a +1 to aura. And then Tinkers, the tech-savvy geniuses, who get a +1 to technique. And the Tinkers are supposed to be about having the right tools for the job.
Yeah.
And then we have Clockbots, and I'll let you take that.
So we start with the D-type, known as the Decoy Clockbot. They are, it looks like the primary form of tank here. They distract and shield against payback. It even says frontline defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have eye-catching designs so that people see them first. They get +1 to the stamina talent. We have K-type, which are Karmistry assistants. They help with Karmistry tasks in order to manage minor functions or even manage less severe payback consequences. They also, it says here, this is an interesting thing. They have advanced tools that allow them to cut tears into the fabric of reality, granting escape artists access to the Great Machine. While we didn't go into detail, the Great Machine is the literal background clockwork of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can do some minor healing. And they can recharge and repair Tauruses, which, while we didn't go into detail too much, we did mention that Tauruses are necessary for karmistry, at least for the escape artists. They have to use it to gather the karma in order to use their abilities. Otherwise, it's very, very time-consuming and scattershot. They get a +1 to willpower. We have the M, which is the medical type, which seems to be very, very specifically focused towards tactical medical support, offering extra HP when needed. And they get a +1 to function. We have the H, which is the heavy type. They're the powerhouses. They are your big, heavy rock'em sock'em robots, essentially. They do heavy damage and have heavy defenses. And they get a +1 to the agility talent. Then we get the X-type, or experimental Clockbots, which are described as being developed in strict secrecy by military research divisions, and they are capable of performing quantum karmistry. This also makes them extremely powerful, but also rarely seen. And they can shift the entire combat background and landscape if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
They get the +1 to the technique talent.
And then we have affiliations. Now, choosing your affiliation is described as like picking your crew or your gang. It's where you learned your craft, honed your skills, and shaped your destiny. Affiliations comes with perks, but also some baggage. Your background will be shaped by the group you roll with, and it'll be on your character sheet. Each affiliation impacts your defense and gives you a key talent and flaw to add to your character's profile.
Trait and flaw.
Trait. So, first one is Wolfgang Academy. Constantine Wolfgang Karmistry Academy. Basically the big karmistry school for about 200 years.
Yeah.
Normal associations are escape artists, special agents, and clockbots. They get a +1 to defense modifier. The student trait, wherein any technique or willpower roll 2 dice and take the better of the 2 rolls. And get the flaw still learning. All karma attacks cost 3 more KP.
So it costs more KP to do your karma, but certain rolls you get advantage.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Gears, the Great Escape Artist Society. Gears are the elite club that everyone wants to join. It's not just about being a top-tier escape artist, it's about wielding significant influence and having a shot at the presidency of Fortuna. Membership is a golden ticket to power and prestige. Usually associated with escape artists and clockbots. They get a +2 defense modifier. The social butterfly trait. Combos take 5 less KP. And the elitist flaw. You can't perform combos with special agents or ink fighter elites. Then the NKA, also known as the Authority, the National Karmistry Authority. These are the Karma Cops, the Enforcers, and the Watchdogs. The NKA regulates and monitors karmistry use, hunting down rogue escape artists and enforcing karmic laws. If you like seeing justice served, this is your crew. Normal associations are everybody. Defense modifier is +2. They have the trait Full Assault. Ability to attack 3 times per combat without raising the danger or payback level. Their flaw is disliked. Any aura roll -2 before adding your modifier.
Wow.
And the remaining 3 I'll let you take.
All right. So we have the Ink Fighting Elite, which are essentially the elites of the Ink Fighters. They dominate the Flux Destiny boxing rings and fight clubs. Obviously, their only association is Ink Fighters. They get a +3 defense modifier. Their trait is Get Back Up. When below 25% HP, add +3 to all rolls. Holy shit. But their flaw is Bruised, where they have -1 to function rolls. Then we have the Clockbot Union, which is the Clockbots working with human allies in order to stop Clockbot mistreatment. Everybody can be associated with the Clockbot Union. They also get a +3 to their defense modifier. They get the trait Thought Lover, which is +3 aura when communicating with bots, but Socially Awkward, which is -3 aura when speaking with humans. Then we have the Independent, which, well, I'm pretty sure everybody understands what that is. Normal association is all +1 to defense. Tough Guy, all attacks get +3 damage. Loner, can't perform combos. These affiliations shape your character's journey, providing both support and challenges.
Yep. Then we have talents. The talent system, where character development in Flux Fantasy goes beyond the ordinary. This isn't just about plugging in numbers, it's about creating a character as unique as your own fingerprint, tailored to fit your style, aspirations, and the epic narrative you'll wield. Your talents are the foundation, attributes like aura, stamina, agility, willpower, function, and technique that form the bedrock of who you are. These traits determine how you interact with the world. Whether you're charming your way past obstacles, enduring through sheer resilience, sneaking where you shouldn't, or hacking the unhackable. At its core, the talent system gives you the tools to build the character you want to play in a world teeming with possibilities. It's about watching your character grow from a fledgling adventurer into a legend in Fortuna, shaped by the choices you make and the challenges you conquer. In Fortuna, where destiny is more than a concept, mastering your personal traits and specialized skills is key to thriving. Here's a closer look at what each of these foundational elements entails and how they shape your journey in Flux Fantasy. I would say that these are akin to the ability score spreads, and in fact, they have a pre-made spread, as well as a way to roll it randomly. But the ones are Aura, which is charisma, your presence, your force of personality. In fact, it says so right there. I'm glad that it would be tempting to say that this is akin to charisma, but if I'm being honest, even among talks with old heads when it comes to the world's most litigious role-playing game, charisma is probably the most misunderstood of the 6 ability scores. Because even to this day, a lot of people still associate it with just looks.
Well, that's because they don't understand the word charisma itself in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Charisma has always been the way you have people view you through the way you comport yourself. Having high charisma means that people are swayed by your behavior, your demeanor, your attitude, as much as the way you look. Especially since you can convey your demeanor through just facial features alone.
Mm-hmm. And it is funny hearing people who claim, "Oh, I've been playing tabletop since 1976," and still misinterpret the whole Napoleon quote that was in the old DM's guide, which was there to illustrate the fact that you can have charismatic individuals who aren't conventionally attractive.
Yep.
It was worded weirdly, but that's because a lot of stuff from that era was worded weirdly due to the college level attempt at writing that it was going for. But then you have stamina, which is exactly what you would think, but it isn't just about enduring blows. It is about sustaining efforts and the like. Then we have agility, which is going to be both movement as well as in the broad sense and the controlled sense.
Yeah, precision and gross dexterity.
Yep. Then we have technique, which is more about applying practical thought rather than theoretical thought. I don't know. Would you consider technique to be akin to, say, logic in some games?
Um, yeah, I could see it as logic and critical thinking.
Hmm. Now, it does talk about applying critical thought. Uh, if you're a terminally online black pill, you probably have a -5 in technique. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
You did.
I
You did
apologize for
indeed.
nothing.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I just sat here to let everybody stew in it for a second.
Hmm. Then we have willpower, which measures proficiency with karma and subclass abilities. Uh, it represents your proficiency in karma that allows you to wield its force. Uh, I
Basically, how good you do the karma streak.
Yeah, I do hope that willpower has other uses beyond karmistry. Because if it's just the karmistry stat, it would be very tempting to dump in it.
I can see that, but once we get to later portions of this guide, you'll see why that isn't as huge an issue as you might think.
Yeah, admittedly that's an old habit issue because we've both seen games that have one particular stat as a god stat for certain archetypes and builds.
Yeah. Certainly, if you're playing an escape artist, you're probably going to try and focus at least somewhat into willpower because that's going to save you from payback. That's going to save you from a lot of other stuff. Escape artists all seem like they'd be focused on willpower, but it doesn't necessarily mean the others will be.
Mm-hmm. Then function, which encompasses your body's function, perception, and the ability to cool down and recover lost KP. Function includes your overall health and wellness, as well as the senses like hearing and sight. So, basically, your ability to be hale.
Yeah.
Huh.
I understand why it's called function. It's the ability to determine how functional you are.
Mm-hmm. But after that, there is rolling for your base talent modifiers.
Yep.
And there's two ways to go about it. There's the random roll, and then there's the pre-made approach.
Yep, which gives us an array of 6 modifiers ascending from +1 to +3.
Mm-hmm. So a single 1, 3 2s, and 2 3s. So, on the other hand, if you want to go random, you can roll a d4 to determine your base modifiers, rolling it 6 times and writing down the numbers, then using the chart below. So roll and result. And basically, if it's a 1 or 2, +1. If it's a 3, +2. If it's a 4, +3.
Yep. Meaning if you took the rolling and you have some good dice left, you could end up with a lot more +3 modifiers.
You'd also end up with the GM giving you the glare.
I'm not being that guy if I'm following the rules.
Oh, of course not. But we all know that one person who
fudges their own die rolls behind their fucking book.
Mm-hmm.
No. You see, that's where this rule comes in. There's a box in the middle of the table if you're gonna fucking roll your stats. Roll the dice there. I have to see and confirm each die. You don't do that, I'm just giving you an array and you're gonna like it.
Yep. And of course these are just the starting point. You still have the modifiers from your karma specialty and your affiliation.
Yep, your specialty, your study, and your affiliation.
But then we have health, movement, and starting items. So first with health, we have, of course, hit points.
Yep.
Your starting HP is 10 plus your function modifier.
Yep, the base modifier function. So if you have a base modifier of 2, you'll have 12 HP.
Mm-hmm. And it does go into healing as well, but healing is healing and HP recovery is something we already covered. Then movement, which is 1 plus your agility modifier, and each square on a board or map is 1 movement point or 5 feet. I do appreciate that in this case, movement is not set. You know, the whole no matter what you are, unless you build a specific way, you're always moving 30 feet, kind of thing. Which can create problems, especially if you're dealing with a character who is meant to be fast, or you've got characters who you've seen the whole thing with the rogue who's wearing light armor and should be moving more than 30 feet, but still is just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in fucking plate or you're a dwarf.
Heh. Dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
Dwarf.
But then you have the starting items. So no matter what, you start with 2 Karma Med Plus kits. You start off with 20 merits, which is the currency of Fortuna. You start with 1 fishbowl. We'll get to what that is later. And depending on your karma specialty, you'll get certain items. If you're an ink fighter, you start with 3 ink syringes. If you're an escape artist, you start with 1 large Taurus or 2 small Tauruses. And believe you me, we will get to the importances of Tauruses later. And if you've read the webcomic, which you should, you'll know that the Taurus is a big damn deal because you're going to see it on anybody who's an escape artist worth their salt.
Like I explained earlier, it's specifically necessary to use to gather karma to perform karma stream.
Mm-hmm. Then you have clockbots who get 1 large internal Taurus.
Makes sense that they'd have a Taurus since they run on karma.
Mm-hmm. And special agents get 1 security badge useful for common clearance. Are you happy with your clearance, citizen?
No. It's okay, I have ultraviolet. Shut up, friend computer.
Remember, the computer is your friend. You should be
happy. I know already.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
I already know, computer. I've heard this spiel for the last 300 years.
But then we have traits and flaws.
Yep. And so, traits and flaws, the making of a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Traits and flaws are key to shaping your character in the Flux fantasy universe. They offer unique advantages, but come with equally significant drawbacks. A character can't have traits without flaws, and unless stated otherwise, the number of traits must match the number of flaws. Each player starts with 1 set of traits and flaws from their chosen affiliation. You can have up to 5 total traits and flaws, mixing and matching them to enhance your character's personality and interactions within the world. Any new traits and flaws you come up with need the GM's approval. Choose your traits and flaws wisely. They'll shape your character's journey and the way you interact with the world of Flux Fantasy. Mix and match to create a unique hero or anti-hero that stands out in the adventures to come. And we actually have a very big list of traits and flaws. They do various things. The traits, some of them, for example, give you plus 2 to aura rolls when the initial roll is lower than 10, or the ability to share Med Plus kits with one other player, or gaining 5 merits for every nat 20.
Mm-hmm.
But the flaws are just as fun there, such as losing your first turn at the start of battle, or -1 to all agility rolls, or when rolling initiative in combat, -5.
Mm-hmm.
So the flaws are definitely going to be just as crucial as the traits.
Yep. And
But
when it comes to powers, like I mentioned, that's something we will end up covering next week. But I think getting back to traits and flaws, I think one thing I will note is I enjoy the little descriptions given for each of them before their effects. Like selfish is just mine, mine, mine.
yeah, they've got some nice little things about them.
Yeah. Paranoid, someone is watching me.
Just remember, a paranoid is simply someone in possession of all the facts.
I'd rather use that quote than reference that one fucking song by that one hit wonder. Who only got that big because of whose family he was in. You know, Rockwell.
Yep.
I know he would claim otherwise, but let's be honest. If it weren't for the fact that he was the son of the guy who owned Motown, nobody would have known who the hell he was.
Exactly.
But I think what's important here is the traits and flaws that are just number go up or number go down aren't as frequent as the ones that are doing some specific effect.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it ends up having a bigger impact regardless of which one you pick. And because of how it works, you don't run the risk of min-maxing.
I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it. There's always going to be the calculators out there that do what they're going to do with min-maxing.
Yeah, you'll never get rid of it, but you can reduce it.
Or, like our game, you can just embrace it.
Well, we embrace it, but we reduce the chances of that guy.
Oh, yes. We absolutely have reduced the chances of that guy.
Mm-hmm. I don't need to name names because everybody has a story about that guy.
Yes. But with that, we skip past powers entirely and go up to skill tree and level up. And start with powering up your path to mastery. It's page 173, Mike. 173 on the page counts, 174 on the PDF count.
All right. I got it. So skill tree and level up. We will handle powers next week because that deserves its own section.
Yeah, we basically just skipped 20 pages or so.
Mm-hmm.
But powering up your path to mastery. Leveling up is a game changer in Flux Fantasy. It's where your character starts to shine, developing unique skills and unlocking new abilities that set them apart. Hitting those checkpoints isn't just about surviving, it's about evolving. Bookmark this page because you'll want to come back whenever your character levels up and starts kicking it up a notch. Leveling up more than just power. As you level up, you'll see your character grow in ways that go beyond just beefing up your attacks. You'll gain advantages that shape your personality and gameplay, making your journey in Fortuna even more thrilling. Plus, you'll have a mini skill tree on your character sheet to keep track of all the awesome skills you're unlocking. And then we have a list of unique advantages, the perks of leveling up. Every time you level up, you get some sweet perks. Here's a sneak peek at what you can expect. Level 2 gives you +5 to your karma pool, 3 is +7 to HP, 4 is an extra skill tree point just for that level, 5 is +1 to any talent, level 6 is 10% increase in all shop discounts. Where else have we heard about level ups causing shop discounts, Monk? Why does this feel like the world ends with you? Level 7 is +1 to defense. Level 8 is +1 to move. Level 9 is all one-time items can now be used twice. That makes your Karma Med Plus kits stretch even further. And level 10 shows a +10 to your Karma pool. So this is just a sneak peek of those levels.
And to answer what you said earlier, I mean, Neku would certainly fit as an escape artist.
Absolutely. And if I'm being honest, part of the design of some of the characters from the Flux Destiny comic definitely remind me of a little bit of Beat and a little bit of Neku, just a little bit.
And to be fair, if you want to deal with ridiculous outfits in one form or another, um, Shibuya is one place to go to steal ideas.
Now I've got The World Ends With You's title music stuff on my head in my head.
Well, it's better that. I mean, on one hand, you get crazy ideas like The World Ends With You. On the other hand, you get Shibuya 15 and Mark Musashi doing whatever the fuck he was doing.
Bad Japanglish. It wasn't English because it was mostly Japanese, but bad Japanglish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad because Mark Musashi actually is fluent in Japanese.
I'd imagine it was probably harder to do bad Japanglish than it might seem.
Yes, actually. As someone who only dabbles in Japanese, trying to speak Japanese wrongly makes your mouth feel weird. If I try to say something in an incorrect cadence or an incorrect pitch accent while trying to speak Japanese, it makes my tongue want to eat itself.
Mm-hmm. But then we have the skill tree points, forging your path. Each time you level up, you earn 2 skill tree points. These points can be used in any area of your skill tree, allowing you to customize your character's abilities and strengths. The skill tree is divided into 4 main parts, and some skills will require you to unlock certain prerequisites before you can snag them. The 4 pillars are Vitality, Personality, Karma, and Talents. Vitality is boosting up HP, Stamina, Resilience, and the like. Personality is boosting your social skills. Karma is boosting your Karmistry abilities. And Talents are boosting unique skills. Leveling up isn't about getting stronger, it's about shaping your character's journey and unlocking their full potential. Keep pushing forward, keep evolving, and watch as your character becomes a true legend in the world of Flux Fantasy.
I like that there's a skill point system in general, because this is going to allow you to, for lack of a better term, really flesh out your character both in the narrative and mechanical, especially considering that parts of how your character narratively interacts with things are so ingeniously and deeply married to the mechanical advantages you have. There's a very nice marriage between narrative and mechanics that we've been seeing so far.
Mm-hmm. And something to note. Not too long ago, I had talked with Ashram Kane, who's going to be releasing the East RPG in the future. And it was over the fact that his game also uses kind of a skill tree. And he had told me that people who had a background in TTRPGs had a harder time adapting to the skill tree setup than people who had a bit of a video game background, or at the very least, in the case of the former, people who had a background in more traditional RPG thinking had a harder time with it. And I look at that as a case of a consequence of rigidity. Whereas I think the kind of people who are going to be playing Flux Fantasy are going to take to the skill tree a lot more easily. Which is also why I gave the advice I did when it came to marketing, and I've never even studied marketing.
Yep.
But then we have background, which is mostly about fleshing out the character when it comes to where things began, your hometown, your story, and a few tips for writing an engaging background. Be specific, include relationships, highlight key events, set motivations, and stay true to your character.
I think stay true to your character is an important one to mention because this is again where narrative and mechanics are married really well together.
Yeah.
It says, ensure your background aligns with your character's traits, flaws, and overall personality. Consistency is key to creating a believable and engaging character. So, I know a lot of people who have been playing role-playing games with any modicum of regularity are going to go, well, duh. And then I'm going to look at them and go, did you ever play the chaotic neutral just so that you could play someone who was lol random? If you say no, I know you're lying, because I think literally every one of us has done that at least once in our career. But you learn from that experience where you use ostensibly a mechanical hook to give yourself the ability to just play a bullshit role rather than sticking to a character. And what you learn from that experience, I should hope, I know not everybody learns this lesson, but I hope that this is the lesson that most people learn when they play the lol so random character, is it's not as fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then people are going to go, well, what about the Harleys and the Jokers? I'm going to go, are those characters really lol so random? Please show me where the Joker or Harley Quinn are lol so random in the original appearances in the 92 Batman the Animated Series stuff. Show me where they don't have their own backgrounds, their own motivations, their own vices and virtues that they actually are true to because they are there. They seem random because the Joker's whole shtick is he's the wild card. Not only is he the jokester because of the Joker name, but it also is a card suit reference. So he seems random, but he's really not. He's really not.
Especially in, say, The Dark Knight, where he claims the whole Agent of Chaos thing, but in reality, because he is such a compulsive liar, you can't take him at that. His whole "I'm an agent of chaos" thing, when he says that, he's trying to manipulate Harvey Dent.
Yeah, if anything, the Dark Knight version of the Joker is actually more of a misanthropic nihilist, and he just uses the Agent of Chaos thing as an excuse to execute his misanthropy. But when you play a character that you have yourself designed, have given a piece of yourself to, because ask any writer, ask me, I'm a writer, I'm an editor-in-chief, I'm a bunch of things. When you write something, a piece of yourself goes into it. So when you create a good character, a character you like, a character that you'd have fun playing, and do have fun playing, it's a lot more fulfilling than taking just that basic bare bones character you created and using them to be the lol so random character, because you don't get that same sense of attachment. And I know we're not your dads, we're not telling you how to play. Maybe you just don't give a shit and you're the min-maxer of the group who just wants to roll the clicky clackies, and that's a perfectly valid way to play too. But the people who really dive into character creation and RP, I sincerely hope that stay true to your character while it seems obvious to you is still a fantastic piece of advice. Because remember what we say here, every game is potentially someone's first.
Yeah. And with the kind of game that this is built on, it's very clear that that operates on the latter of the two schools of thought with character creation. And I've talked about this plenty of times over the years. The former, and you don't see this as much these days because it's kind of fallen by the wayside, is you build the stats first and then you build a character around this. A lot of old school games are going to have this mode of thinking. A lot of pre-90s games are going to have this mode of thinking. The latter is you build a concept first and you build the stats, all the math around that concept. And I would say the majority of games that you're going to find on the market are going to fall into the latter category. Now, neither one is better. Both of them have their advantages and their disadvantages.
And it depends on what type of game and what type of play you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're building the character around the stats is something I've seen done for a lot of hex crawls, meat grinders, things of that nature, and it works really well.
Yeah. At the same time, it's clear that that's not what this is trying to do, and that was evident to me because I've mentioned this before, but my first introduction to the Flux universe was when I happened across the Twitter account for Flux Fantasy, and it billed itself as a game where you can create your OC. Now I know some people will make the Cold Steel the Hedgehog jokes or the OC donut steal and all of that cringe, but that's beside the point. And anyone bringing that kind of stuff up is the kind of person who's better served pretending that they're intelligent on Reddit.
Pretending that they're intelligent on Reddit.
Or
I like that one.
To put it another way, having delusions of adequacy.
Ha! I've heard that one before, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. The point is that whole with that kind of approach, the people who are going to be coming into this already have an idea of the character they want to play in mind. So all that it is just taking them past that halfway point.
Yeah, and if I have to be pretty specific about when I first ran into the whole design the character and then stat around it philosophy in a more indie game.
Mm-hmm.
No, outright in an indie game. It was Thrash.
Yeah.
Thrash, like he literally says it in the book. Choose your character idea and then use the points to buy what you want to make that character.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Thrash was a indie game in the early to mid 2000s that was built around emulating fighting games. I'd say 2D fighting games especially.
Not just fighting games in general, but anime fights as well. Like there was a lot of anime in it for sure.
I mean, the first edition outright name dropped that opening blurb from, I think it was King of Fighters 95.
Yeah.
So
wow, Thrash like literally Thrash on the website for Thrash, at least one of them. Thrash lets you create your own fighter with dozens of fighting styles and hundreds of special moves to choose from. Whether your pleasure is SNK, Capcom, Namco, or over-the-top anime action, Thrash strives to provide all the cans of whoop-ass you'll ever need.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that Blackbird, Ewan Clooney, went on to make other things that were just as good. Because this was a labor of love.
Well,
and just like that...
He did make Magical Burst later, which was his own tribute to Madoka. When the anime had finished, he did. I do remember really following his Yaruki Zero games blog back in the day. There were a few other games that he had made, and as well as an attempt to try and do FF8 specifically in tabletop form. I couldn't say any further because for whatever reason he's got me blocked.
Well, that's sad. I would like to point out he does have an itch page. It's a very big itch page, but just as Thrash was something with that particular development mindset, that you create the character you want and then build around it. Mm-hmm. It's very clear that Flux Fantasy wants you to think of a character you want to make and then use the system to make it.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that Flux Fantasy is just as much a labor of love as Thrash is.
And to that end, I would like to issue a bit. I would like to issue a bit of a challenge to both Chris and the rest of the Flux Fantasy crew, including anybody from the Discord who might be watching this. I want you, for those of you who have access to the PDF, whether you're involved in making it or you are subscribed to their Patreon or whatever, or you got it off Gumroad, whichever approach you did. I want you to go through each of the karma studies that we have here, and pick one character from any anime, manga, comic, video game, tokusatsu, whatever, and pick one that would be a good fit for that karma study. I can already think of a few, but I want to see what other people come up with.
I can think of quite a few myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I am actually typing up that challenge to throw in the main chat over on the Flux Destiny fandom Discord server.
Yeah, this is my challenge to you guys, because I want. When it comes to this sort of concept of playing as your OC, I want to see how far that concept can be stretched. And to illustrate that we're not talking out of our ass, I think this would be as good a time as any to go through the cast of UA Great Lakes and how they would fit.
Oh my god! Monk. Okay.
Just to say, we're gonna do this with. If we can do this with our shit, then y'all have no excuse. So I'm gonna go with their names in alphabetical order for this. So first we've got Aldrich Philby, aka Vibrato.
Okay. Vibrato?
Yeah.
So if I had to choose a karmistry study for Vibrato, hold on, let me go up. I think I know which one it is.
Obviously, we're getting to the powers next week, so take this with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking
I'm going to say biochemistry
because of its shapeshifting.
Yes, Vibrato does a bunch of shapeshifting, and biochemistry allows the changes of flora and fauna in their biological processes.
Mm-hmm. All right, next, Amelia Curtis, aka Sonic Bloom. You know, our girl with no brakes.
Yes. Let me see here. I'm gonna say clockwork chemistry for forces control.
Mm-hmm.
Since she controls, well, forces.
Yeah. She just has a problem of hitting the brakes, so her approach to stopping is hit something harder than me.
So long as she can take the hit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liken it to somebody who's on skates who doesn't know how to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know that person. Hell, some of us may have been that person the first time we were on skates. Those of you who are on the East Coast, think of rollerblades because you don't get any ice.
Yep.
Then we have Carol Engel, aka Cordyceps.
Isn't he our mind controlling mushroom dude? Or she? Yeah.
No, she's our plant control, but has to implant the seeds into her skin.
See, that would be another biochemistry person, but you could also technically, I think, do that with some of the ink fighting. Maybe if a different riff on animal ink fighting, so that it's plants instead of animal. Things like Venus flytraps and such.
Yeah. Next, our best shit stirrer, Finn Heiko, aka Foxfire. You know, ancient Chinese secret.
Chinese secret.
He's not Chinese.
Ancient Chinese secret, that's going to be a creative karmistry student, for sure.
The creative karmistry who's good at pissing everyone off and
Well,
getting
reshape reality according to his creative whims. I think that's Finn right there.
Yeah. Next would be Irvine Thales, aka Hadron.
What were his powers again?
Creating gravity and anti-gravity wells.
Ah, yes. A lot of this stuff is going to probably fall into into a lot of the escape artist karmistries. He's either going to be he'd be clockwork karmistry again because of energy and forces control. Or he might be quantum karmistry in certain ways. But I'd say it's more likely to be clockwork karmistry.
Yeah. So next would be Kyle Bridger, aka Jet Falcon.
Ah, here we go. He's a bodyguard special agent because of his fucking exosuit, Monk.
Yeah. I mean,
either that or a tinker.
I would lean more towards Tinker, because while you could do a heavily built exosuit with him, the key thing is he makes a variety of suits. I had likened the variety of suits with him to the different modes of the Iron Man suit in season 2 of the Iron Man cartoon in the 90s.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely... He's a tinker, for sure. I was waiting for Kyle.
Yeah. Next would be a tricky one. Marcus Houch, aka Backdraft. Now, him I could see being bodyguard type agent.
Did he control the fire, or was it from a suit?
Fire control wasn't his thing. He is more akin to Bishop in X-Men in the sense that he absorbs and then rechannels energy.
Okay.
He thought he was fireproof, but in reality, it was a case of absorb and redirect.
I could see him as bodyguard in a way, but in this case, we're looking at more standard karmistry here. Back to the escape artists, almost, I would say.
Yeah.
Something like that is going to probably be more of the clockwork again. Clockwork karmistry covers a lot of things because energy control and forces control is a huge, broad field.
Yeah. Next is Oscar Venegas, aka Pacha Kamak.
Oh yes, Mr. I can turn into a giant
Nope.
Aztec deity, isn't it?
No, he does act like he does have the attitude of an Aztec deity, but his whole thing is earth control.
Earth control to boost himself, though, right?
He can use earth control to give himself armor, and use earth control to give himself some easy obsidian with those macahuitos.
Macahuito. Yep. He'd be an elemental ink fighter because he's an infighter and he's using elemental magic.
And he is very, very, very much a fighter.
Yes.
Then there was Thorvald Eriksson, aka Thurgelmir. This is our giant.
That's right. He'd be a body ink fighter because I remember he was also an infighter, and he just enhances himself.
Yeah. It's just that instead of he's not a striker, he is a wrestler.
Yes. That still works, because as it says in the body section, these warriors were the first to practice in temples and have now transitioned to world boxing tournaments and other combat arenas. And then it says these enhancements turn their bodies into formidable weapons, making them perfect for bodyguards or champion wrestlers.
I mean,
so he's absolutely a body ink fighter. Absolutely.
When I was submitting the design concepts to the artists I had worked with, one of the things things I had used as reference was a lot of Puro wrestlers, and especially ones that came out of the Four Pillars of Heaven era from the 90s. And one in particular that I used was Kenta Kobashi, who just happens to be one of my favorite of all time. And as well as guys like Kojima, who really likes bread.
Mm-hmm.
To the point when he won the championship in MLW, the fans threw slices of bread into the ring. Not toast, just bread. But
yeah, we didn't put it in the toaster yet.
Mm-hmm. But last is Zaha Rademacher, aka Hardcase.
Hardcase.
That's a tricky one.
Remind me of the powers again, Monk, for Hardcase here.
She is a power mimic, but her whole thing is creating constructs that channel the powers that she's mimicking. She doesn't use the mimic powers directly. I am thinking reinterpretation of Animal Ink Fighter.
We also had her as a powerful tactician, didn't we?
Yes.
Like she had that personal rivalry with Finn.
Because she is very much a stiff neck, and Finn is chaos. So they do. It is a rivalry, but it's a one-sided one because Finn doesn't care.
Yeah, Finn's just like whatever.
And Zaha really can't stand him.
Operative secret agent. Operative special agents are dangerous, smart, and clever. These special agents are skilled in planning and coordination, using their knowledge of karma-powered surveillance and technology to outsmart their enemies. Operatives often take on top leadership roles, guiding their teams through dangerous situations with precision and cunning. Their ability to think several steps ahead makes them invaluable in both planning and executing missions. They are the masterminds who can flip any scenario with their strategic acumen. You can absolutely flavor her power mimicry and clones as special clock bots she gets from the special agency as a tool, since she's a government agent, that absorbs passive karma from any other karmistry user to replicate their own karma back at them. You could absolutely do it, but the operative description definitely fits her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can find a way to flavor anything.
Yep. I could certainly work with that. And the big reason I went with that was because I wanted to put our money where our mouth is when it comes to this sort of thing. But so far when it comes to character creation, this isn't at... I know a lot of games that utilize a power system are very point-based. This very much isn't, at least when it comes to everything but the powers. But so far, it's pretty straightforward in terms of what it's doing. I think the only thing I might change is some sort of, okay, what does it mean ability wise when it comes to whether you have +1, +2, or +3 in a talent narratively. And
yeah,
I think
I can.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I can definitely see the need for some sort of examples of, if I have +1 in aura, what does this mean compared to when I have +3 in aura? As a character, how is that going to affect the way I act?
Mm-hmm. If you need an example of how this kind of what we mean by this kind of thing, I recommend looking through a lot of the skill entries that you see in most of the old White Wolf games. I think the most relevant for this would be Exalted, and I'm not saying that because of my biases, because it's the closest fit.
That's a lie. He's also saying it because of his biases. Just because it's a closest fit doesn't mean the biases aren't also working in his favor.
I mean, I could always and I want to make clear I'm referring to Exalted 2nd Edition, not 3rd. I do not acknowledge 3rd Edition in my temple, because that is a masterclass in missing the damn point.
Yep.
But from what little we saw when it came to powers, which we'll get to next week, it's very clear that it's not going to be as crunchy as, say, a Supers game. And whenever it comes to this idea of doing something manga inspired in TTRPG, a lot of people always point to using a Supers game as the base, and I feel like that's missing the point. So I remember hearing that a lot when it came to the notion of doing a tokusatsu RPG. And problem is, I'd say using, say, Mutants and Masterminds for like a Kamen Rider RPG creates more problems than it solves.
Mm.
And going with archetypes is something that's vital, because and the reason why I like archetypes even more so than the usual classes is it's a middle ground between the linear approach and a freeform approach. We have levels in this thing, they're just very broad in terms of what you're going to be getting specifically based on how you're using Karmastry.
Yes.
And I think I said this last time, but I could easily see me hacking this system to work within the Symposium of Life. I would just have to create whole new forms to make that work.
That's fine.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't be able to use Karmastry straight for that. I would have to make some modifications. And moreover, when it comes to the studies, I would have to make a whole new series of studies, because the way the Symposium uses their powers is not the same as Karmastry.
Yes.
There's also the fact that, much like Legend Edition, it is built on the potential of mix and match.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the characters we had made was using Creation and Earth for his architect abilities. So it's something that I'd have to tackle down the road. But with that said, we're off to a good start, and it's good to be back in the Flux Fantasy saddle.
Yes.
We will be back next week solely talking about powers, and some might go, well, if you covered the rest of character creation, why is powers coming after that? Because if we put it within this section, it would have been too long, and if we covered it beforehand, it wouldn't fit the flow. Putting it afterwards was the best of the worst, in terms of our options.
Yep.
And that's not a slight against the game itself. It's more about how we make the game work within our setup. But with that said, we will see you here next week. Now, tomorrow, there is a 50-50 chance that Cloister will not be returning, mostly due to a health issue with our producer. I do hope she gets better soon. If that isn't the case, I will end up doing a game stream around that time. I'm just trying to narrow down which game I end up streaming, because, well, my library is not small.
There are so many games and so little time.
And I don't think I'm going to do a demo grab bag like I did yesterday.
Now, as for me, I don't stream when I'm not with the monk. I'm not a streamer. That's not my thing. However, if any one of you is in the monastery Discord, at some point tonight, I will be sharing my experience with Synduality Echo of Ada. I made it into the the closed network test. So while I can't necessarily show it in a screen share, I can talk about what I'm experiencing in a general sense.
Mm-hmm.
Got to make sure I don't get, sued into the ground by Bandai Namco.
Plus we're not like those idiots over at, I believe it was at that one place that decided to violate the good faith of Valve with that whole deadlock thing, where they decided to show stuff anyways, even though they were asked not to.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Technically speaking, what they did wasn't some contract violation or something like that, but it was also a dick move.
Absolutely.
But that is a story for another week. So until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Soy, yo la punga, yo, yo, me encanta.